Hey guys, Matt here, and on today's episode of Let Me Learn TV, we're going to put together an automatic filling dog water bowl. So what we've got is a normal water bowl. I got this one specifically because it has an opening on the bottom between here, and the next thing we have is a float switch. This is meant for a fish aquarium to help keep the level consistent in an aquarium. Basically it's just like a normal switch. It has this little floaty on it that trips the switch when it goes up or down. And you flip it upside down and now it's got the exact reverse function. So if we use this water bowl, what we're going to do is drill a hole and put this in here. So again, the reason I can use this water bowl is it has this opening right here, so I can hide the back of the switch and the wires inside this water bowl. So that's going to be useful. Next thing we have is a water solenoid valve. This is it's a 1/4-inch pipe threads on both sides. It does have a direction. Some are bidirectional. This one has an arrow on it, so we gotta make sure the water's flowing the right way. This is a 12-volt solenoid, and it draws up to, set on, I think it was, it actually draws 1.5 amps, if I remember correctly. I'm not seeing it on it now. I believe it was 1.5 amps for this. So the reason that's important is you need to know how big of a power supply to get for it. Since this one does draw some power, I've got a 12-volt power supply here that is actually capable of 3 amps. I just had this one on hand, so that's why it's being overpowered a little bit. Also, since the switch, if you look at the specs on this switch, it's only rated for 1/2 amp to flow through it. So we cannot just use this switch directly in line with the solenoid because it will fry the switch, and that's no good. So what we got to fix that problem, this is a 12-volt automotive mini relay. I got a pre-wired one ready to go just to make things easy and nice. And since it's a mini one, I might be able to fit it, again, inside here if all goes well. We'll see what happens. So the way the relay works is basically it's an electromagnet activated switch. So there's 2 contacts on this which will be triggered by the switch, and then that actually flips the switch inside of here that's rated for 10 amps, and that way we can hook this to those contacts. So now the 1/2 amp rated switch is going to trigger the relay so that we then have a 10 amp switch. So anyway, it's pretty common practice if you know electronics. If not, relays are a great thing to do some research on and learn about, because cars use them a lot. Next up we have also that relay, it came with a wiring diagram. So different relays are going to be colored and labeled differently, so make sure you look up what your relay's pins are all for, and we'll explain those once I get to that. Next up we have this hose. This is actually a ice maker ice maker supply hose. So this is 1/4-inch OD compression fittings on both sides, and this is intended for hooking up a refrigerator with an ice maker. And I'm actually missing one piece of this puzzle, which is the adapter for under my sink to hook up into one of these sides. So for testing today, we're just going to kind of squirt some water into it and see what we can do, and then eventually I'll actually have that correct hookup, and we'll be able to really test it out. Next up we have, this is a 1/4-inch on both sides, 1/4-inch male ball valve, and this is going to go right onto this side, upstream on the solenoid valve. So we'll put that on there, and now we can control how much water is going to flow to the water bowl and through the solenoid. We don't want to have any crazy waterworks right when this thing comes open and just sprays the dog in the face. So we're going to make it trickle kind of slowly, and we can control the rate of the water using this valve. So that's going to go there. We'll go ahead and just tighten it down a little bit for now. What we have here is a 1/4 inch compression to 1/4 inch pipe adapter. So we'll just take off those little pieces. And again, since this is a 1/4 inch compression hose, we're just going to go ahead and screw that into one side. And the other side is going to supply the ball valve. I'll go right onto there. And that doesn't rotate, so we gotta rotate the whole thing. Alright, that'll work for now. So now we have this supply line going to that adapter, going to our ball valve, going to the solenoid. Make sure all those are somewhat tightened down for now. Probably torque them all down and put proper sealants in them later if it starts leaking. And then on the outside, the side downstream on the solenoid, we're going to put this guy, which is a 1/4 inch pipe fitting to 1/4 inch rubber hose. I think it's called a barb fitting. 1/4 inch pipe to 1/4 inch barb. So we're going to put that in on the other side. And then I have here, this is drinking water rated, so it's lead free. It's okay to send water through that you're going to drink, so it's good for the dogs. And this is 1/4 inch inner diameter tubing, so that it'll fit on our barb just like that. We're not going to need this whole length of it, but that's what it came in, so that's what we have. I will cut it. Let's go ahead and just cut a small portion of this, make it easy. So now we have a nice shorter length of this lead-free potable water hose. Good to go. Alright, so that's going to go right onto this guy. I'll just stick that on for now. Alright, so all of the mechanicals are now hooked up. Water comes in here, and it only comes out here when this has 12 volts. So the next part of the process, let's go ahead and let's mount this switch. Alright, so before I actually start drilling holes and putting the switch into the bowl, I want to figure out one, which way it operates, which way is going to activate our filler, and then two, how far does it have to go in that direction to activate the solenoid. So let's go ahead and just hook this up. We're just on continuity on my multimeter here. Okay, so you can see as this floats up, it's right about here that it activates. So we're going to want it to be this direction, so that when the water's full and this is floating, it's not filling up with more water. And then as the water level goes down, it's going to trip the solenoid right there. So it looks like it's about a 45-degree angle where it starts to flip it. So now we know that, we can figure out where to put it in the bowl. So we'll be at about a 45, oops, 45-degree angle, full. So it looks like this thing's actually going to want to be pretty close to the bottom of this bowl, which is useful because that's where the space is biggest down here, so it gives me the most room to put this switch. So I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole towards the bottom of this bowl. Alright, so that bowl came apart a lot faster than I expected. Whew. Alright, so last dog bowl I tried ended up too leaky. The crack that it made when I was drilling it through just let too much water through, so it wasn't going to work. So this one is another bowl that I already had, and I had this one screwed into a platform for food, so I just filled this hole that I already had in this one in the bottom. So yeah, don't mind that. Eventually maybe I'll actually get another water bowl, but for now this one actually, I've already tested it, does not leak. So let's go ahead and drill another hole in the same spot. Hopefully this one doesn't crack straight through like the last one did. So let's see what happens. That is a much nicer looking hole. No cracks. Hopefully this one will actually work right. Unfortunately, this drill bit's not actually quite big enough, but it's the biggest bit I had. So I'm going to have to do some circles on this and widen it up. Let's see if that made it wide enough. Got a little crack there. Perfect. Alright, got the perfect size now. Gonna try and take this rubber bushing off. I'll do it without that first. We'll see what happens. And now let's take this to the sink and try and do another leak test / rinse this thing out. We're going to go ahead and rinse out all the plastic shavings that are in there, and at the same time see if we have any leaks. Let's see. Uh-oh, I see some dripping. Let's see where it's coming from. Yep, it's coming from the switch, so I might still have to use that rubber gasket after all. Alright, so let's put the rubber gasket on. Alright, so I got the rubber bushing installed, rubber gasket, rubber bushing, whatever you want to call it, and now I believe we are 100% leak free, finally. So let's go ahead and try this again. Got the multimeter on continuity. Alright, so that tone means solenoid turn on, add water. Once I hear it stop beeping, I'll turn off the water. And there it is. There's the full bowl. Alright, so now that we have the switch all installed and ready to go, got all the plumbing hooked up. Obviously it's not actually hooked up into any water yet, but we'll get there in a bit. Now we've got all that done, let's go ahead and hook up this relay and the power supply so we can actually start messing with this a little bit. So, first off, let's go ahead and take this power supply, and I'm going to this is going to be kind of sitting off in a distance, so I'm actually going to cut this all the way here. It'll just be easier to tuck this away out of sight, and so we don't have to deal with it. So I'm going to cut off the connector that's there. Alright, so I've got the power supply connector cut off. Let's go ahead, strip that. There we go. Now, in most cases, the shielding that was around the outside is ground, and the inside is positive. But every now and then, companies decide to switch those around. Sometimes they have them labeled. On these guys, yes they do. So right here, we're going to look at that. It says negative is around the outside, positive is in the middle. Cool. So I'll go ahead and believe that. And again, this was 12 volts, which is what we need. And it's 12 volts DC. I see a lot of power supplies like that that are AC, 19 volts or 14 volts. So make sure it's DC. We're going to first connect the ground on this power supply to the ground on our relay. As well as one side of the solenoid. The solenoid doesn't have a positive or a negative, so either side will work. So again, we have the ground from the power supply going to the ground of the solenoid, as well as the ground of the relay, which in this case is black. And we're going to solder all three of those together. Alright. So now we got all the grounds hooked up, good to go. Let's go ahead and move those out of the way and tape them up to make sure there's never a short circuit. Alright, all the grounds should now be good to go. We got the power, the positive on the power supply right here. So, positive on the power supply, we're going to put going into this switch, as well as onto the common for the relay, which in my case is yellow. Alright, again, we have the positive side of the power supply. We have the common on the relay and one side of the switch. Let's go ahead and solder those. These guys should be all we need for positive on the power supply. So let's go ahead and tape those off. Okay, so now we should have one side of the switch left, two contacts on the relay left, and one side of the solenoid left. So let's go ahead and there we go. So if we look at that wiring again on the relay, one of them in this case is a normal open. This is what we're looking for. So what that means is it's normally an open circuit until the switch is set. So we're going to use normal open, which in this case is brown. So brown is what's going to go to the other side of the solenoid. And the other side of the switch is going to go to the other side of the relay actuator, which in this case is red. And the normal closed contact on the relay in this case is not used at all. So I'm just going to set that off to the side for now. Might cut it off later. And you should hear it. There it goes. So now if I try and act like I have water going through this tube, I'm going to just use my mouth and air because we should also be able to feel that. So right now I can't get a whole lot through. And I think that's because I have the ball valve closed right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just open that up all the way for now. We're going to use that to fine tune later, but for now, there we go. So I'm not sure if you can hear that on the camera, but air is going all the way through right now. So that's because the switch right now is in the empty position. So let's go ahead and keep on blowing. And you can hear everything so far is working just as we'd expect. As I lift up on the button, once it gets to the full position, you can hear it switch and close that valve. Once we get to an empty position, it opens back up so I can fill it up. Alright, so let's go ahead and solder these two connections since we know they work. Alright, so now we have everything hooked up, wired up, soldered up, and ready to go. Alright, I got the final piece that we were waiting for the automatic dog bowl, and got it installed. So let's check it out. It's ready to go. So here's the piece I was missing. This is the plumbing under the sink. So this goes to the faucet, this goes to the water supply, and this is a 1/4 inch of the ice maker supply hose that you saw previously. That runs. I drilled some holes to run it into the cabinets here, all the way around to here. There it is. I added this little U-bolt right here just to hold the hose in the right spot, so I don't have to worry about it getting out and just endlessly pouring water onto the floor. So added that little U-bolt there. I already fine-tuned the flow rate using that ball, the ball valve that we already went over. So that rate is good to go. The power supply is already hooked up. So all I need to do is turn on this valve right here. And now you can see we have water coming out. Now you can see I'm starting with a really slow flow rate. I don't want to freak out the dogs and make them give up this water bottle, or this water bowl, excuse me. So we started with a really slow flow rate, and I might turn it up a little bit quicker later once they get used to it. And there you go. It's filled up about halfway where we planned for it to, and there it is. It's full. It stopped. Again, the last piece that I have that we didn't really talk about, this is a 3/8 inch, 3/8 inch, 1/4 inch. It's called a T. All those are compression fittings, but whatever sort of tubes you have on your actual sink or whatever you're connecting to for your water line, make sure you get those sizes. Aside from that, thanks for watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and feel free to share with your friends and subscribe if you want to see what we come up with next. Thanks.